Hey guys, I hope everyone had a delightful Thanksgiving break. Today's skit is called Puns by My Grandma. Ethan, you go first.
All right. Dear Ben.
You don't have to read the whole thing.
It's just a pun. Okay, it was discovered that when farmers tickled... No. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at reading.
A few years ago, I was fitted with a neck brace. I've never looked back since.
Recently, I've tried to make a car without wheels. I have been working at it tirelessly.
You know the best thing about living in Switzerland? Well, the flag is a big plus.
Lost my paper towel. I think I might be a bounty hunter.
To be fair, it's like cursive. It's like not easily legible. Okay. Coldplay. We're gonna review their album today. Are they done now? Which one is this?
This is Coldplay's 9th studio album.
Oh,
They've been around
one
for...
less than 10.
Yeah, it is. One less than 10.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
It's okay. No, they've been around for like quite some time. Their sound has evolved, certainly. And they've done collaborations more recently with like Chainsmokers and stuff, but everyone kind of knows about that. To be honest, I'm more of a old head when it comes to Coldplay. In the last decade, I haven't like been super excited about any of their albums. I enjoyed Ghost Stories, but nothing has been like that great in the last decade. So I was ambivalent about this project. What were your thoughts, Ben?
Well, I've had a pretty surface level relationship with Coldplay. I'm really only familiar with their singles on the radio. One time we played Viva La Vida in elementary honor orchestra. That was really fun. The cello part was pretty boring though.
Did you sing?
No, it was orchestra. I played the cello.
This one?
What?
So you said you have a very surface level.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I have never listened to a Coldplay album all the way through.
So you just like occasionally text each other, like.
Yeah, like I never really like asked Coldplay any deep questions or anything like that.
Never like had a DTR or anything like that.
No, yeah. Anyways, really, I was looking forward to digging more and getting kind of invested in one of their albums, seeing what they had to offer. Though from what I've heard, I think most people are in Ethan's situation. They kind of prefer their older stuff. Though I did really like the collaboration they did with the Chainsmokers and some of their remixes that got big. What was the one that got big like a few years ago?
Him for the Weekend.
Him for the Summer.
It's Weekend.
Don't listen to me.
That song.
Because it's a summer song, right? Not a winter song.
Correct. So, overall, this album addresses a lot of... It's a pretty political take. I think you said it's probably like their most political album. So, or not necessarily political, but just kind of social commentary on being a human.
Yeah. In more recent albums, they've done a good job of taking a wider perspective on especially their lyrics and their message, where a lot of their early stuff was more personal, about relationships, stuff like that. Where in recent years they've done more of a... This is a... I don't know.
Pulling back, looking at bigger picture kind of stuff.
Which, has done well for them, I think, for sure.
And for me, I think that was one of the biggest appeals, honestly. I really liked how the lyrics, I could kind of tell where they were going, what they were saying, just upon the first couple listens. But once I listened while looking at the lyrics, I really enjoyed what he had to say. I think it was all very clear. I think Ethan might not agree that he's the strongest writer, Chris. But I found a lot of the messages enjoyable and very easy to understand, very digestible. Probably not the deepest or most complex ideas, but I'm just kind of a sucker for the whole humanitarian vibe. For example, Daddy is a really heartfelt piano ballad from the perspective of a son who is reaching out to his father who has been absent. And it can take a couple of angles. For example, Chris himself is a father who has to leave a lot to go on tour and has to leave his children, but he's also kind of making a deeper social commentary on how the U.S. justice system sort of plays against a lot of fathers in the African American community, and a lot of kids in that demographic grow up without a father and how harmful that can be. So I thought that was some really good songwriting there. Trouble in Town also did a pretty solid job of just addressing the concept of discrimination towards non-white people and used a really interesting sample. Arabesque, I thought, did a really good job of touching on the togetherness as human beings and what that is like to be, or how we are all humans having the same kind of experiences, but also diverse experiences, how we're all similar in that way. Gun was obviously a pretty blunt, biting critique of America's love of guns. I may not agree with everything on this album politically necessarily, but I can still appreciate the artistry and how well it was written. What about you, Ethan?
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's not much on this album that I necessarily disagree with as far as the lyrics. I think at times, like the song you were mentioning, Guns, it's just this weird mix of like being satirical about this and also, I don't know, going back and forth between like the verse and the chorus. Mm-hmm. Just something about how he delivered the lyrics, or it's also just, it's just not very, I don't know what to make of it really. Like it's almost like kind of a joke song, but it's also really serious. It comes off like fake and a lot of, and this can be said for a lot of the tracks, on my opinion. Like it's not all of the tracks. I think some of them do a good job of bringing in these lyrics that actually mean something and challenge the listener, but a lot of them are just kind of are not really,
just kind of missing the mark for you.
Yeah, they just kind of miss it. I did appreciate like the varied instrumentals on this album, and I think one of the strongest points. It's different than what Coldplay's done, but as far as lyrics goes, I think that's one of its weakest points. It didn't give me a clear message to come away with necessarily. I appreciate the overarching concept of like everyday life. This is humans. This is us. We're kind of all in this together. Mm-hmm. But as far as their actual political beliefs, I'm not criticizing them. I just don't think they were articulated in the best way possible.
Was it like a little too vague for you? Like you wanted something a little bit more specific?
Maybe. Yeah, like even the song "Daddy" you mentioned, they just could mean so much. And yeah, you're right. I think it is too vague. It's like just saying these things, and yeah, you can look at Genius lyrics and they're like, this is what it means or whatever. These are potential meanings. But I don't think it was necessarily direct enough for it to mean anything besides just this, message that everyone is hearing that isn't really a message. It's kind of like, at the end of the day, so generally the lyrics were, I thought, kind of a weak point, and I've never really liked Coldplay necessarily for really good lyrics. I think they have I think Chris Martin is a good writer. I'm not like saying he's a bad writer.
Yeah.
It's just they're very simplistic. They don't really.
That's what
do a lot of
the writing is very simple. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think on albums where it gets more political, having this simple message kind of ends up being this like it's not really a message at all. It's like a non-message.
I think he's attempting to address some pretty complex ideas and concepts, and are you just kind of want the lyrics to match that complexity, maybe?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. But as far as instrumentally, I was pleasantly surprised by some of the tracks, like Arabesque, like you talked about.
Just really good sax.
They're definitely reaching out as far as the genres go. Like they have elements of like American folk and even some like R&B and jazz, electronic influences. One of my favorite songs on this album was "Old Friends," which is basically just Chris and a guitar. And I love Chris Martin as a vocalist. I think he does a really good job. He's got this amazing falsetto. And just the lyrics of the song are really simple, and the guitars. I think Coldplay shines the best when they have just really simple ballads, really simple songs, rather than these party anthems or really complex instrumentals. And so that was one high point on the album for me. But I don't know, what was one of your favorite songs on this album?
One of my favorite songs? One of my favorites was Cry, 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 but we'll get to that later. Yeah, I would agree. I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of the production. The first couple listens, I was a little thrown off at how wide of the variety was. For example, we get some gospel choir.
Yeah.
We get a really straightforward hymn. We get, like you said, some American folk. And of course, their typical kind of rock stuff, UK rock. We even get a demo track of just Chris and a guitar. And upon my first couple listens, I was kind of like a little thrown off by that. But once I read the lyrics, I realized there was a really strong correlation between music and lyrical content. And I think a lot of good decisions were made instrumentally and stylistically in order to appropriately communicate certain ideas and associate that with a good sound. So again, one of the highlights for me on the album, it covers a lot of genres, and I think it works because each one is justified by the lyrical content, and so that made the album feel really unified, really clean to me. Yeah, Cry, Cry, Cry had this kind of smooth, jazzy lo-fi groove, and it felt like post-World War II to me.
Yeah, it was kind of this pop post jazz.
Pop post jazz. Sure.
I don't know. I was not a fan of that track.
It sounds like a song you would like dance to in a parking lot with your significant other. Sounds like a cute thing to do.
Maybe.
I also thought a lot of the samples were like references they made to certain literature were really strong because they helped contribute to the theme of the album. For example, Trouble in Town samples a kind of graphic or just kind of hard to listen to audio of a policeman kind of assaulting, mostly verbally assaulting, presumably a non-white guy, and just really depicted how
I think it was the most emotionally driven song on the whole album.
Yeah, I would probably agree.
It kind of builds to this sample, and then the band just like
it was pretty
plays out
hectic.
One of my favorite tracks on the album.
So with the song WOTW, I think this track best epitomizes my feelings towards this album. I really enjoy it. I just don't find like any replay value. I feel bad. Like it's just like I recognize the quality in writing. I recognize, like I said, all the really good decisions made instrumentally and stylistically. I don't want to listen to it again.
I think for me, I enjoyed listening to this, mostly the singles leading up to the album more than I enjoyed the album in itself. I think the first half of the album is pretty good. But when we get to the second half, they kind of lose me. There's a lot less continuity. It seems like a lot of the kind of B-side sort of tracks are there. Yeah. And it's not very cohesive as far as a message. They try and hit on a lot of things, but they only do so just very briefly as far lyrically and just content-wise. And it kind of ends up just being this just kind of messy, not necessarily production-wise, but just as far as what they're a messy message.
I think I would disagree. None of them were boring, and all of it felt like it contributed in some sense. I guess as far as like cohesion, it wasn't very like linear, or like there wasn't a very specific arc that at least I could identify. So I guess maybe you could have like switched up the song order, and it would have made a huge difference. But I don't mind that. I don't think it subtracts from the album. So yeah, I'm pretty like on the fence. I stand by the fact I don't think an album has to have replay value in order to be good. but I still don't want to give this anything like an 8 or even a 7. Cause I just like only a small number of these would I listen to again.
Yeah.
So probably like 6 Orphans.
Agreed.
A strong 6 Orphans. I like you, Coldplay. I'll give you a strong 6. I'm gonna predict yours. We'll say it at the same time.
Okay, I'm gonna give this album 4 Orphans.
Let's go! Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry for not uploading last week. I was on break. It just would not have been possible. Also, I'm tired.
Yeah, everyday life really gets to you.
Hey, if you have finals this week, kill it. You have
Stop
finals?
Watching this video if you have finals.
Yeah, you're watching us.
You need to get busy.
Go study. I appreciate the support. You're so loyal. Thank you. Like and subscribe.
So, Ethan, I have a beard. The thing about beards is that it really highlights the size of your headphones and the color of your flannel.
Or
So
over here.
the thing about growing a beard is that it makes your nose ring look shinier.
That's a good point.
It also emphasizes how rolled up your jeans are
Yeah.
and your high tops. It sound.
Hey, let's check the sound a little bit more. Let's check the sound a little bit more. Check the sound. Case of one. Sorry. I'm sorry.
You gotta start.
They gave more milk. It was a case of one in ear and out. Oh wait, it was the case of in one.
Can you just read the next one?
Yeah. Okay. It was discovered that when farmers talked to their cows,
You just read this one.
I was gonna give it another shot.
I'm not keeping that in.
Okay, please don't. That was really bad.
Eli is just really indifferent. Can you also stop laughing? Trying to do my YouTube channel.
But you could listen to Everyday Life While You Study if you want, or another album that we've reviewed, or just another album.
Or you could listen to lo-fi beats, or you could watch some really good ASMR. You can do a lot of things.
Yeah, here. Or you can listen to our ASMR.
Chex Mix.